Tonight on Reporting Scotland, another change to Scotland's winter fuel payments. The Scottish Government announces it will follow Westminster and claw back payments from richer pensioners.
I don't think they've gone far enough, and they could have done much more in Scotland so people can manage our colder winters and our higher energy bills better than the rest of the UK.
Meanwhile, MPs consider major changes to the benefit system which could spark a Labour rebellion. Also on tonight's programme, calls for more young people to get the HPV vaccine.
Oh, I know. Amazing. I thought it was going to be worse, but it's already over. Yeah.
Doctors say there's been a drop in the number of people getting the jab, which reduces the chances of getting some cancers. And do you fancy living here? Why some Highland communities are crying out for more neighbours. Hello, I'm Laura Goodwin. Welcome to Wednesday's programme. The issue of winter fuel payments and government U-turns have become somewhat ubiquitous in recent weeks, and now there is another change. The Scottish Government say they will no longer offer its new winter heating payment to pensioners on a universal basis. Instead, it will claw back funds from pensioners with an income in excess of £35,000, matching the system announced by the UK Government. The UK Government today also announced changes to benefits access, which could have implications in Scotland. Here's our political correspondent, Andrew Kerr.
We first spoke to former nurse Cass MacDonald in Edinburgh 3 months ago when the changes were outlined. She suffers from long COVID and working is an impossibility. As the full details of the Welfare Reform Bill are revealed at Westminster, she gave her reaction.
I think it's a mess. I think it's actively going to harm hundreds of thousands of people in the United Kingdom. I think it's actually going to hinder people with chronic conditions and disabilities who are both in work and trying to find work.
Secretary Liz Kendall.
The Work and Pensions Secretary introduced the bill the government's wanting to cut £5 billion off welfare. Most savings will be made by restricting access to personal independence payments, or PIP. That benefit in Scotland is the adult disability payment and won't be affected, but welfare cuts can impact the Scottish budget. Earlier, at Prime Minister's questions, the SNP made their feelings clear.
Today, her government is introducing its £5 billion disability cuts bill, which will push another 250,000 people into poverty. Does she agree that everyone has the right to oppose such devastating cuts?
We're absolutely committed to ending child poverty. We've already introduced free school meals. We're already supporting families. We've given a living wage rise to over millions of workers that need it. We're getting on the job, Mr Speaker, of rebuilding Britain.
The Conservatives accuse Labour of panic.
These actions are being taken because Labour have failed to grow the economy, failed to get the people into work they promised they would, and coming up to a year anniversary since their first election, this is a sign of the great mess that this Labour Party is in.
Huge Labour backbench discontent also continues to brew, despite the government giving a longer taper-off period for people coming off PIP. So the stage is set for a big rebellion, but the Prime Minister is determined to press on. He feels the system does need to be reformed and thinks these changes will be popular with people out there. Meanwhile, the Scottish Government's announced it will no longer offer its new winter fuel payment for pensioners on a universal basis. It's matching a move by the UK Government to recover funds through tax from those earning £35,000 and above, and claims it can't afford to do otherwise.
What we were absolutely concerned with was ensuring that we were supporting everybody who had challenges with incomes and were in poverty. And what we see from the UK Government was not substantial enough to allow us to do that, which is why we made our own plans up.
It feels like the Scottish Government could have done a lot more. There's a lot more money at their disposal to have a transformational benefit for those on the lowest incomes and the hundreds of thousands in fuel poverty. And I think they've just missed an opportunity to do that.
Big bills continuing change as governments battle the rising costs of the welfare state. Andrew Kerr, Reporting Scotland, Westminster.
Our political correspondent Kirsten Campbell joins us now from Holyrood. On this issue of winter fuel payments, there's been various changes. Why has the Scottish Government now brought in another change?
Well, this has been quite the saga, hasn't it? There was a huge public outcry when the UK government decided to means test the winter fuel payment last year. Now, the Scottish Government then took over that benefit. It was originally going to offer a universal payment of at least £100 to all pensioner households towards their heating bills this winter. But when the Westminster Government U-turned and expanded the eligibility criteria, the Scottish Government is also now changing its offer. So pensioners will get £203.40 this winter. If you're over 80, that will be £305.10. And those extra few pounds are about inflation. It's an inflationary uplift, and that allows the Scottish Government to say that its payment is more generous than Westminster's. But the Scottish Government is discussing getting the UK Treasury to claw back those payments from pensioners who earn more than £35,000 a year. Now, all this means that 720,000 pensioners across Scotland will benefit from this, but there are tens of thousands of pensioners who are earning a bit more, who were expecting £100 this winter, and they're now not going to get it.
OK, Kirsten, many thanks indeed. The HPV vaccine has been a game changer in helping to prevent cervical cancer and some head and neck cancers. Here, school children are offered the vaccine when they are 12 or 13, usually at school. But public health experts say they're concerned a drop in the number of young people getting the jab, particularly in deprived areas, could leave some communities unprotected. Here's our health correspondent, Lisa Summers.
We've got 5% of our community is vaccinated. So the little black balls are the people who are vaccinated and the little white pom-poms are not vaccinated.
At Castlebury High School in Craigmillar, Edinburgh University researchers are running a class on how vaccines work.
Here, close your eyes and you're going to touch one of the balls to choose someone who's going to get the virus.
So how common do we think that HPV is? Do we think it's A, very rare, B,
it's all about human papillomavirus.
I think you had your hand up first there.
B. Can you still get HPV with the vaccine?
Some pupils like JJ are a bit uncertain of the jag.
I don't want to get it, but I also don't want to get the virus.
Others have already decided to take the vaccine.
Get more information about it and helps him like get scared. It did hurt and it was sore and my arm felt really dead, but it's probably better to get it than not get it.
The HPV vaccine is highly protective against certain cancers. School pupils are offered it from S1. But data shows a big gap in uptake. It's over 80% in the least deprived communities, but that falls to an average of less than 60% in the most deprived.
We are seeing differences in uptake across different communities, and that's really concerning because this virus can affect everybody and we want everybody to be vaccinated so they can be protected.
And one go for this one.
Castlebury is one school where vaccine uptake has been lower than the average, but since starting the workshops, they have seen it improve.
The thing we've really noticed as well, though, is the increase in confidence. So we've worked quite closely with the NHS Lothian vaccination nurse team, and they've said that on the day that people just know why they're there, they know what's happening, they know the vaccinations protect them against HPV. It's been really important for the young people to have that autonomy of choice, to understand why they're getting this vaccination to protect themselves. I hate needles, so what I do is I look the other way, I close my eyes. And
Dom is now chumming JJ to get his jag to help him overcome his nerves.
So relax your shoulder, okay? Brilliant, here we go. Well done. We're all done.
What?
I know, it's done. Amazing.
I thought it was going to be worse, but it's already over.
Yeah.
Over in a flash, and JJ says he's glad he's now protected.
I feel better I got it done because at least I'll have not the risk of getting HPV.
Public health experts hope that more people will follow his lead. Lisa Summers reporting Scotland, Edinburgh.
The UK government has delayed the switch off of a radio system which controls the heating in around 100,000 Scottish homes. The energy regulator Ofgem says the radio teleswitch service, which was due to be switched off at the end of this month, will now be phased out more selectively over the summer. Well, our correspondent David Henderson joins us now. David, can you explain how this works?
Well, Laura, on the face of it, it sounds like a pretty odd way to control your heating, but this is old-fashioned technology called RTS for short. It's been around since the 1980s, and it uses the same signals as the BBC's long-wave radio signal. And these are beamed out across the country, and they tell electricity meters when to switch on and off and when to switch between peak and off-peak rates. And it's still being used in more than 100,000 homes across Scotland and more than 300,000 homes across the UK. Now, this whole UK-wide machinery is now reaching the end of its life. So the plan was simply to switch the whole thing off in one fell swoop at the end of June. But that has prompted growing concern that the heating in many of the homes which rely on it might just grind to a halt and then not switch back on again. So now, tonight, the UK government has stepped in to delay this process.
Yeah, because as you say, I mean, look, it's summer months, so maybe people don't have their heating on as much, but the issue was that people just didn't know what was going to happen at the end of that period. So what is going to happen now?
Yeah, it's an understandable concern because, of course, you know, it's the summer, as you say, and that people typically use less heating during the summer. But if your system, if the system works your hot water heater, that's a problem. Or if you're elderly or infirm and you're using it all the time, then that's doubly problematic. What's happening now is there will not be this UK-wide switch off on June the 30th. Instead, the energy regulator Ofgem is talking about what they call a cautious and targeted phase out of the service, as they put it, to protect working families and vulnerable customers. Now, we're told that affected households will be contacted in advance to make an appointment so they can have their meter changed over and replaced. And meantime, the energy firms are also being put under a lot of pressure to get this switchover done much faster. They're being told to replace not just 1,000 electricity meters a month, as they're currently doing, but 1,000 of them every single day. Let's see how that goes.
OK, thank you very much indeed. Some of the day's other stories now. Detectives investigating a gangland feud in central Scotland have arrested 4 more people. 2 men aged 26 and 20 have been charged with attempted murder over an attack on an Edinburgh businessman. David McMillan was seriously injured outside his home in the capital last month. And 2 other suspects have been charged in connection with fires in Edinburgh and Glasgow. The total number of arrests now stands at 48. A leading Scottish jazz musician has been dismissed from his role at the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland over allegations he started a relationship with a student. Tommy Smith has worked in the head of jazz position at the school for the last 16 years. The Conservatoire said he had been sacked following a disciplinary investigation and hearing. It also said robust policies are in place to ensure the safety and well-being of students and staff. More bus services were operating around Ayrshire and Arran after a breakthrough in the drivers' strike. Services have been badly disrupted since a 6-week strike started last Monday, but the action's been suspended after a revised pay offer was made. Stagecoach says there'll be full service in Ardrossan, Kilmarnock and Arran. All routes in Ayr will operate, but not as frequently as normal. The pay offer was made after talks between Stagecoach and the Night Union. Drivers will vote on whether to accept it on Friday. Women's rights campaigners have handed the Scottish Government a deadline to comply with the UK Supreme Court's ruling on biological sex. The Sex Matters Group has issued a letter warning of legal action in 14 days if ministers continue to delay new policies and guidance. Our political correspondent Lizzie Buse has more.
Success at the Supreme Court. Women's rights campaigners celebrated after judges ruled a woman is defined solely by biological sex under equality law. Now, 2 months on, they're urging the Scottish Government to act.
What we're asking them about is everyday services, so things like toilets, changing rooms. All they need to do is put a statement on their website to say that where they provide male and female facilities, that's separated by sex, and that of course they endeavour to provide a unisex option wherever possible.
Some trans activists have questioned that interpretation and are concerned about the impact on their lives. The Scottish Government says it's acting on the ruling.
I want to give that reassurance that we accept the Supreme Court judgment and we're moving forward right across government at pace and consistently to ensure that if there are changes to be made, we're already working on those.
Meanwhile, the prospect of this latest push from activists actually reaching court has been met with some scepticism.
The first thing about this action is you're challenging something that hasn't happened, which is unusual in and of itself. And the form in which the specific legal action would be taken because of that would be unclear.
Ministers here, like their counterparts at Westminster, say they're waiting on the Equalities and Human Rights Commission to finalise their guidance on implementing the ruling. But campaigners want to keep up the political pressure, and the threat of further legal action is one way of trying to do that.
Another is spotlighting the case of Sandy Peggy, whose visit to Holyrood today was publicised by Sex Matters. The nurse is taking NHS 5 to a tribunal after objecting to sharing a changing room with a transgender colleague. After meeting MSPs, Ms Peggy posed for photos but wouldn't speak to journalists. Her tribunal is due to resume next month, at a time when campaigners could be pushing to take the Scottish Government back to court. Lindsay Buse, reporting Scotland, Holyrood.
Well, Laura is here with us now, and you're going to be discussing this more in the 7.
We are. We've done a full interview with Sex Matters, Laura, who issued that deadline to the Scottish Government. Also tonight, we'll hear an appeal for more egg donors in the North East, just to try to meet higher demand there. And finally, you can find out how much a very rare letter signed by both Mary Queen of Scots and her husband, Lord Darnley, fetched at auction in Edinburgh today.
Gosh, I can't even begin to imagine. Thank you very much indeed. Tonight's main news again. The Scottish Government announces it will follow Westminster's lead and claw back winter fuel payments from richer pensioners using the tax system.
Still to come in sport, we hear from the new Motherwell manager, Jens Bertel Askau, for the first time.
Now, the northwest of Scotland is famed for its stunning landscapes, but the most recent census suggests not enough of us are actually living there, with population levels at historic lows. For example, in Coicach in northwest Sutherland, the population density is just 1.6 people per square kilometre. That's lower than Lapland. Those who are living there say they are suffering a vicious cycle of depopulation, in part because basic services are harder to access and key decisions are made far away. Cameron Angus Mackay reports.
Depopulation is a reality for people in Coicach and northwest Sutherland, no longer just a future concern.
The school rolls have fallen dramatically over the years, and I think that's a reflection on the general depopulation that's here, particularly of young people, young people and families. And it's very, very difficult for them to go and get back in here, get opportunities to come back, both from a work point of view and also a housing point of view.
The latest census revealed declining numbers. Northwest 2045, a group of communities, third sector organisations and landowners, says rural policy is making the situation worse.
We need long-term sustainable investment from both local authority and the Scottish Government. That's investment in healthcare, education, housing. It all needs to come at once because we need to reverse depopulation, not stop it. We actually need to reverse it now.
Finding somewhere to live is one of the biggest challenges here. Northwest 2045 says people struggle to afford average house prices, with more than a fifth classed as second homes or vacant. They're asking politicians to rethink rural policy.
I think in terms of policy design, public services design and delivery and spending decisions, we need to be thinking a lot more about population at every level. Because it is a factor when you're thinking about how to deliver an education service, how to deliver healthcare, how to deliver childcare, everything, and infrastructure too.
They want to see a mechanism for longer-term collaboration between policymakers and people with local knowledge.
It isn't viable for us to improve these things on our own. We have to have government and agency help.
The Scottish Government says it wants to support communities, but adds that there are no quick fixes. Ministers say Highland councils getting £60,000 this year and next to trial interventions locally. For people in Coicach and northwest Sutherland, it's a question of whether communities continue to have a presence in this part of the country. Cameron Angus Mackay, reporting Scotland.
Well, time now for sport with Sheila, and it's all about European draw news tonight, isn't it?
It is. The big games will be back before we know it. Hello there. It's that time of year when Scottish clubs are able to start plotting their potential pathways in European competitions. And today, Rangers, Hibernian and Dundee United all learned their opening opponents. Well, earlier I spoke to former Rangers midfielder Kevin Thompson and asked him about the importance of that first game for Russell Martin.
Listen, Russell will know that. He's played there, he's felt the pressure, he understands the demands, the expectations, etc. I think the biggest thing for him and his staff, and obviously the players that do come through the door, it's imperative if they get off to a good start. And what better way trying to have a fight again to Champions League? It would give the whole place a boost. It would give him a great start, and hopefully that would be a catalyst for them moving forward to some sort of success.
Now, the new Motherwell manager, Jens Bertel Askau, says he wants to turn Motherwell into a top 6 club again and plans to do that with a dynamic and intense brand of football. The 42-year-old former FC Copenhagen assistant boss arrived in Scotland yesterday as a replacement for German Michael Wimmer and spoke to gathered media this afternoon. The ex-Norwich City defender is a former teammate of new Rangers head coach Russell Martin and says the tradition and community feel to the Fir Park club was a big draw.
There's a special atmosphere. You feel it directly when you enter the premises here. Yesterday when I arrived from the airport, it was packed with children in the middle of the school run, so you feel the strong connection to the community here through different and multiple generations, which I really appreciate. The football I prefer to play and what we want to do, want to play, is we want to play some dynamic football with players who wants the ball, who wants to do something with the ball, who wants to take the initiative, with big intensity on and off the ball. Aggressiveness, discipline, structure. If you take the last 5 years, we've been in top 6 once. We've been 3.4 off in average, 3.4 points in average in reaching top 6. So is it possible if we lift things and if we do things a little bit better over 33 games? I think it's possible to find a win and a draw.
Now to rugby, and the British and Irish Lions head coach Andy Farrell has named his squad to take on Argentina in Dublin this Friday night, and 2 Scotland internationals feature in the starting 15. Glasgow Warriors captain Sione Tuipulotu and Edinburgh winger Duhan van der Merwe will both begin the game, while Pierre Schumann and Scott Cummings are on the bench. Farrell was picking from a reduced pool because many of those who played in domestic finals recently are not yet ready for selection. 14 of Friday's squad of 23 will be representing the Lions for the first time.
It's what they dream of, there's no doubt about that. You can just tell with the buzz in the group and what it means to them. The excitement around the place, it just shows what it means to them. And we've seen it in the preparation, how diligent they've been, how quickly they've come together as a group, and the bond that they've got already within such a short space of time is great to see. But best foot forward and all that, and it's all about the performance on Friday night, isn't it? Because that's how we're all going to get judged.
Meanwhile, Scottish rugby's situation around contracts for the national women's team will be resolved before this summer's World Cup, according to Chief Executive Alex Williamson. A representative of the squad got in touch with the BBC to highlight that some players are continuing to suffer with their mental and emotional health because of the potential loss of contracts, claiming only 15 members of the 38-player training squad for the World Cup are on year-long deals. Williamson admits it's uncomfortable, but says they're trying to create a longer-term plan for professional women's rugby in Scotland.
But what we have done is given them certainty as to their position for the near term, as in through the World Cup. And then we are looking to introduce a professional environment in Scotland, much enhanced commitment to the Celtic Challenge, because from a personal perspective, I think we need our pro teams or our semi-pro teams here in Edinburgh and Glasgow to be competitive enough to be able to convince everyone else involved that we should have a British and Irish League.
And that's all your sport for this evening.
Thank you very much, Sheila. Time now for weather. It's going to be hot, isn't it, Christopher?
It is going to be hot towards the end of the week and into the start of the weekend as well. Not much sunshine around today, but more on the way. Thanks, Laura. Very good evening to you. Yes, we've had a fairly cloudy picture across many parts of the country today. A few spots of light rain around the west coast, and the cloud is sticking with us as we head through the course of this evening, working its way northwards. But there will be some clear skies across the northeast. So Angus, Aberdeenshire, Highland Perthshire, the Highlands and Islands, single-digit temperatures elsewhere through the central lowlands in the south around 11 or 12. So to tomorrow, and we do have high pressure with us, but this warm front working its way northwards. That's the cloud we've got overnight tonight. It's still with us tomorrow, working northwards. So a bright start in the north, but clouding over. A cloudy start in the south, but brightening up. And as we see that cloud work its way northwards, southerly winds move in, bringing some increasingly warm air. So temperatures by mid-afternoon tomorrow up to around 24 or 25 degrees through parts of west central Scotland. Elsewhere, reaching the high teens or low 20s, so a good few degrees up on today's values. Even with a thicker cloud across parts of the far north, a pleasant enough day and some sunshine across Orkney and Shetland, but cooler compared with elsewhere. And then lots of evening sunshine to end the day on Thursday. Now, towards the end of the week, Friday and indeed Saturday, we're dragging in some warm continental air and temperatures will be climbing. So this is Friday, lots of strong June sunshine around, high UV levels and just the chance of 1 or 2 light showers in the west. But take a look at the temperatures in a few spots reaching 26 or 27 degrees. It will most likely be the warmest day of the year so far. Always that bit cooler and fresher, of course, nearer to the coast and across the Isles. And then to Saturday, we've still got those warm southerly winds. So once again, temperatures into the mid-20s, just the chance of some heavy downpours towards the west. And then to Sunday, we see a change in wind direction to more of a westerly, low pressure nearby. So a good bit fresher feeling with a fair number of showers around, but certainly some high temperatures likely on the way for the end of the week. That's the forecast for now.
Thank you very much, Christopher. And that's where we leave you. Anne will be here with your late news at around 10:30 tonight. But until then, from everyone on the team, do enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye-bye for now.